Okay, we're not starting with any music. We're not doing all that foolishness. We're just going to jump right in here and kind of start looking at stuff. All right. So let me start with the police chief. I'm going to start with Gilbert's police chief. He's kind of gotten on my last nerve. Let me see which one I want to play first. I think I'll play this one. All right, so let me share this with you. Present, share screen. We're going to do 101, share. Gives us a little bit of an introduction to Gilbert's police chief, Michael Solberg, and his thinly veiled frustration with the public. Yeah, it's almost an obscenity to even say that, because in fact, Police Chief Solberg, it is indeed the public that is angry with you. So I don't know why you believe that you are on solid footing for showing frustration and anger with your community, or frustration and anger with the reporters, or frustration and anger with the people on social media. I'm not sure at this point, sir, how you feel that you have a leg to stand on in this argument. In fact, it reveals you to be fairly tone deaf, given the nightmare that Preston Lord's family is currently experiencing, that you could have done something about. So I want to listen first to his discussion with Channel 3, and then Arizona Family, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so I'll be quiet now.
Police chief says he knows people are frustrated and does admit there's at least one assault case where they should have done better, a case where they had video of the assault and still closed it with no resolution. But he says he wants to emphasize that most of the videos and pictures they received in past cases only happened after Preston Lord was killed.
Okay, first of all, he's making excuses. This is the police chief of Gilbert, Arizona, correct? A local police group that already has egg on their face because Lori Vallow's family was begging them to help, that she was clearly not doing well, and they dropped the ball every step of the way. This is, in fact, the same group where the esteemed Jason Mao found his notoriety, I suppose. Charles Vallow's truck was stolen by his wife. His plane tickets were canceled. His home was completely, Lori Vallow moved everything out of the home, stole everything, hid his children from him, stole his money, all of the cash out of a business bank account, and he went to the police multiple times asking for help, and every single solitary step of the way they ignored him, brushed him off, even to some extent tried to suggest that he was a perpetrator of domestic violence. And you would think after that humiliation, devastation, them finding Tylee and JJ, you would think that the police department would have said, oh, we need some extra training. We need to clean things up. We need to do better. Well, apparently not, because they have people getting beaten up, vehicular assaults, beat down fights with videos, and the cops still don't do anything about it. They close the cases. Well, he admits to one of those, just one. Like, hi, I'm Police Chief Solberg. I just don't understand why the public is unhappy with us. I know we got a dead teenager, but why would you be so mad at us? Of course, we had video, but it was only one assault. Then he goes on to say what really doesn't match with the facts. He goes on to say that there was only one assault where there was videotape, that they did not have videos and photographs and people naming kids, that they didn't have that in all the other assaults. But now we know that's just simply untrue. Now, why he would want to take the chance of telling such a tale, I don't know. But you sort of get the impression as you listen to this guy, you get the impression that perhaps it's one of two things. Either, well, the man is just simply low IQ, or he's hiding something. And the question is, could he be hiding something for him? I'm sure I don't know what it would be. Or is he hiding something for some of his friends? Are some of the kids in the Gilbert Goonies, are some of those kids connected to very powerful and influential people? Like, let's just go out on a limb here and take a guess. Maybe a highly decorated FBI officer? Could that be why these cases were not given the proper attention? Is it possible that these affluent children who were throwing around white power gang signs, that daddy is a big to-do in the FBI? Is that possible? Something to consider, isn't it? Because if you're just a lowly local police chief, but you've got friends with connections to the FBI, not just any FBI agent. No, 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 no. An FBI agent where only 5% achieved the level of accomplishment and training that this man did. Well, if you're a lowly local police chief, having some FBI friends might be really helpful for you if, let's say, you decide to go for bigger and better things. Maybe you yourself wishes to become an FBI agent, or maybe you're trying to get into the Secret Service. Then it might be a really great thing if your little FBI friends put in a good word for you, wrote a letter of recommendation, maybe. Is that what is going on with this police chief?
Chief Michael Solberg sat down with me today, knowing so many eyes are on how his department has handled the teen violence cases. He says since February of 2022, they've had 27 cases of teen violence, with 12 that are active right now.
Okay, I want to just put this in perspective for a moment. 12 months, 27 violent crimes associated specifically with these things. And you will later hear him minimize that. Oh, well, we couldn't tell. We couldn't see a pattern because, it was just random places and times. Then he goes on to say that really most of the assaults happened in Gilbert themselves. There was, I think, one in Mesa and one in Santran. This man is incorrigible.
In Preston Lord's murder, he confirmed today that all 7 suspects have had some interaction or involvement with their department, most of them having prior arrests with Gilbert PD. That factor, along with multiple teen violence.
Golly, isn't that something? They have arrested 7 of these little jerks, And all 7 have at some time or another already come under the scrutiny of the local police department. Is one of these boys the son of a highly esteemed FBI agent? Would that be the reason that this boy and his friends consistently come under the scrutiny of police officers in Gilbert, and no one does anything about the delinquent behavior? Is that why?
Cases having to be reopened has led to calls to action for Chief Solberg to be fired or resign, parents asking how their department missed this troubling trend of violence.
They were random in location. We had
they were random in location. You've got 27, count them, in 12 months, 27 episodes of teen violence, real violence. Isn't that like 2 a month? Am I wrong on that? Would somebody check my math? He's about to tell you, of the 12 that currently have open charges, that's where people have been arrested. Of the 12, 4 of them happened in the same parking garage. Oops. Oopsie. I'm sorry, Chief Michael Solberg. Is that what you call random? Because Arizona is a very big state. And you've got 27 assaults, 12 of which have it's an open investigation. 4 of those 12 is in the exact parking garage. The grandest majority all happened in Gilbert. I don't know what this man is saying. I literally don't understand, unless he just takes us all for fools. Crazy talk.
4 at In-N-Out. We had a couple at the garage, some at houses. But in each of those cases, we had a couple repeat offenders, but it wasn't the same group, it wasn't in the same time frame, and it wasn't the same location.
It was the same 3 locations. It was the same group of friends, and it was all within 12 months. So yes, the same time frame.
How do we call them random if you knew that there were at least 4 In-N-Out, multiple in the parking garage? That feels like a bit of a disconnect.
Well, you got to keep in the perspective of the time frame I'm talking about. 4 assault cases at the In-N-Out over a 4-year time period.
A 4-year time? Oh, no,
if
sir.
you had involvement
February
and interactions and issues with these kids years ago, how did it get to the point where a lot of these suspects were involved in Preston Lord's murder? And had you done more, would Preston still be alive?
Yes.
We knew what our involvement was with them, but not group teen-on-teen violence prior to the incidents that were being investigated now.
He said those previous crimes included things like criminal damage, DUI, smoking, etc. So I asked him, based on all of that and people's public anger, does he plan to resign? He answers that and tells me about one of the teen violence cases he knows they should have investigated better from the start. You can watch that tonight on Arizona's Family.
I'm just curious what you guys think, okay? You just watched this police chief. You just watched him minimize teenage DWI. You realize that, right? That he's saying that even though there was 27 assaults in 12 months, 4 at the In-N-Out, 4 at the parking garage, and then in people's homes. This isn't the little jerk house. This is where their victims are living. These kids are going to victims' houses to assault them. And it's a group, I believe. I ran across that information, and I'm not where my notebook is. Let me think a minute. I want to say maybe there's 27 of these kids that identify as being part of the Gilbert Goons. I call them the Goonies. Don't you know? The peculiar thing is that he claims that it's not always the same kids, and so what you say is, well, if 10 kids commit a gang violence, in order for it to be part of the gang, are you saying that every single time it has to be the same exact array of 10 kids, that it can't be 10 out of 27 kids in different perturbations, correct? Doesn't make that I think he's making excuses. I think that's all. He's just making excuses. So, oh, I'm sorry that you're sick, Rousey. I looked at the chat. Now I'll get distracted. Okay, I'm gonna get back on topic now that I read. Hi, everybody. Thank y'all for being here. Okay, so you get the feeling that this police chief, he's making some peculiar excuses, correct? He's giving some strange. He's saying things that are really just nonsensical. Now I want to go to this video right here. All right. I got to turn the volume on. Okay. Here we go.
Tonight marks a month since my nephew was beaten at a Halloween party.
This is Preston.
A month since he took his last breath on his own, and a month since some really brave teenagers performed CPR on him. It's been a month since our family got a call that would change our lives forever. It's also been a month since a group of boys decided to beat my nephew and leave him on the side of the road and go home like nothing happened. It's been a month that the parents of these boys have chosen to live a life of silence while we've been living a real life nightmare.
Now, that is a very important point. The reason that is a very important point is that we've just gotten a good solid background that for at least 12 months, 24 or 27 months total, the kids of all these parents that you see at the vigil for Preston Lord, every single one of these parents and grandparents, they have been living with the knowledge that a small group of kids, most of them affluent, that this group of kids is brutalizing and terrorizing the community. You saw the police chief. You saw how he made excuses. You saw how he dusted it all off, made excuses for himself, but shockingly also for the kids. Now you get the other side. These are the families whose children are being harmed. And in this one specific case, this is the aunt of Preston Lord, who was killed by this group of monsters. And his friends that were there at the party, they dragged him out of the road so he wouldn't get run over. And then they performed CPR on him until the EMS got there. And he died a couple of days later in the hospital, probably brain swelling. So she mentions how this group of parents, this division in families is so profoundly different, that the victims, and this includes Chief of Police Solberg, this includes the group of kids who were being threatened with death in the hallways of their prestigious school. Those kids were silenced by the boys and their parents that you are protecting. This is the other side. This is the good kids. These are the good kids who are not making and building a life of crime. These are the kids and families who are not terrorizing others. So when you see Chief of Police Solberg and these weak little, I don't even know what you call excuses for his failure to act, that the department making a choice between the haves and the have-nots, making a decision to leave the little rich boys alone, or could it be because there may have been a kid or two whose daddy may or may not have been a highly decorated FBI agent? Is that what was being protected?
It's been a month that we have been shown the real meaning of community. A month of humanity, reminding us that just because there's a handful of really bad people in this world, that people are still really good. It's been a month of so much love showered upon our family. And a month of gratitude for all of you walking beside us and holding us up in this devastation. And I know that we want answers, but more than anything, we don't just want an arrest, we want a conviction.
So that's the other side, Chief of Police Solberg. This is the side that really matters. Not the side of your friends, the people that you're attempting to protect their children. Because from your point of view, your friends, they're going, oh, but my child is not a murderer. It would be such a waste for my child to have to spend the rest of his life in prison. I'm a law enforcement officer. I've been working my whole life to make the streets safe. My child is not a murderer. No, here's the problem, Chief of Police Solberg. When you allow a group of kids to run roughshod over your town, when you give in to their wealthy, powerful parents, you put them in charge. You haven't been in charge. They went up to that Halloween party with impunity. The attack on Preston Lord, there are rumors that he was flirting with a girl that one of the Goonies liked. Oh, I wonder if it was the FBI agent's son. That would be an interesting little twist in the story, wouldn't it? But nevertheless, there was some rumor that it was related to a girl. That could have just been rumor with nobody knowing what they were talking about. But now today, as of, I guess, late last night, the local news began reporting that it was all over a gold necklace, a chain. So you've got a good kid, Preston Lord, who lost his life, who was sacrificed by a group of little, well, I will show this. Hold on just a minute. It's in my Canva, I think. Let me share my Canva. Hold on. Uh-oh. Wonder what that is. Is that daddy and son side by side? I don't know. Okay. So you see, you see this hand sign here. Whoops, sorry. There we go. This hand sign right here. Now, if I go much bigger, it's going to distort and you really won't be able to see it. Let me try a little bit. Okay. So this symbol right here, yeah, that's a white supremacy gang sign. And you think, okay, well, so like, what does that matter? What is that? Well, that would be one of the young men who has been arrested in the murder of Preston Lord. Who is it? Do you know? You can probably all recognize and know who this is. That's right. This would be the knight in shining armor who came rushing across the desert on a white horse to defend the damsel in distress in the middle of the Arizona desert. Jacob Pennington. He's a mama's boy, correct? So we know who this is. But who's that? Anybody want to guess? Do we need to play some Jeopardy music? Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. The person that you are looking at wearing the glasses, well, that is Mr. Honey Ho. That's right. His mama and daddy call him William Owens Hines. I just like to call him Honey Ho. This is an 18-year-old who has been actually charged as an adult, and he is now looking at life in prison for the murder of Preston Lord. Mr. Honey Ho, there he is in all his glory, flashing white power gang signs. Right? It's a nice, fine, upstanding group of young boys, correct? Now, I want to be a little careful here, although not very careful. Admittedly so. I'm out on a limb here, people. I want to be a bit careful here and say this. These kids, they are affluent. Their families, their parents and such, well, they got enough money to hire attorneys to sue me. Okay. I would think at this point they got bigger problems than me, however. So I'm hoping I'm going to be in the clear on this one. You know what I mean? So what you're looking at here is, you're looking at 5 of the Goonies, the Goon Squad. Now, can I ask y'all this? If you were going to be like a fearsome, frightening group of criminally violent monsters, what do you want a name that would like inspire fear in other people? You got to be a little bit stupid to take the name Goonies. It's kind of sad and pathetic, I'm sure that when they get to big boy prison, I'm sure that the prisoners there will help them explore potential gang names that would have been a little more appropriate for murderers and armed robbers and people who use daddy's car to assault other kids, right? Honey Ho? That's right. Honey Ho. used vehicle as a weapon. Now I ask you, would you be any more horrified or shocked or dismayed or disgusted if Honey Ho had taken, let's say, a Ruger to assault that same kid? To me, it's all the same thing. It is a weapon of mass destruction. Whether you take daddy's expensive car and drive it through a group of people, or you open fire on a group of kids using a Ruger, it's all the same thing to me. You are a sociopathic killer, and that's it. So it would seem that one William Owen Hines, my goodness, isn't that a dignified sounding name? He sounds like he comes from a fine, upstanding family, doesn't he? He's got one of those old school names. Unless you affectionately call him Honey Ho. All right, so yes, so he's throwing white power gang signals, okay? The last part of this, let me see. Any Ken DeLory. Okay, St. Elmo's fire. Look, you're getting a little ahead of me, girl. Just hang on. Just give me a second, okay? You work faster than I do. Oh, by the way, isn't it strange that this face and this face look shockingly alike, don't they? Isn't that unusual? Here, let me blow it up for you and make it a little bigger. There you go. You have Honey Ho on the left, and then we have a mystery man on the right. Who is that mystery man? Who could that be? Look at there, look at there. My goodness, that does in fact look like the same set of eyes. It looks exactly like a genetically identical nose. In fact, there's like no difference in that nose and those eyes, is there? It's a little eerie. Look at those eyebrows. Look at the bone structure. Wow, that is really something. Now, the mouth is different. Chin's the same. Mouth is different, but you know, mamas, they get to put in half of the genetic DNA, correct? But it is so hard to get away from those eyes. My goodness. Look at that. Isn't that something? I wonder who that is. Who is that old black and white photograph? I don't know. I'm sure we'll do some sleuthing and find out, correct? But today, we're just going to have to be satisfied to know that old Honey Ho, in fact, does have a dad. Somewhere out there in the great world is Honey Ho's dad. And I personally don't want to get in trouble with Honey Ho's dad. So let's just move along and get ourselves into trouble with the chief of police, Solberg, who's mad at me and you and Arizona family and other investigative reporters that made him look stupid. Let's hear what he has to say. You are not going to believe this.
What we have had a report of is based on that misinformation. And in one case, in one of these cases, 17-year-old kid is out playing in front of his house.
What in the French fry? What did this man just say? what did this grown-ass man, a trained police officer, what did he just say? Listen to this again.
What we have had a report of is based on that misinformation. And in one case,
Yeah, let me just say this. If you look over to the right of the screen, it says Gilbert's police chief gets emotional discussing the harm caused by online rumors. So these online rumors, this was January 25th when this was put up. That's what he's addressing right now. He's addressing the problem that the investigative reporters, the parents of children who've been brutalized and victimized in their own schools, the supporters of one dead teenager, well, he's upset that they're talking about it. He doesn't think people should be questioning that the police let 27 assaults go by, every one of the cases being closed. He doesn't like that people are talking about it. He doesn't want people talking about it. And he certainly doesn't want people like me speculating on it. But what do we know about Fridays? Fridays are for wild speculation. Isn't that right, honey ho? You and your special daddy. So listen to what this bozo is about to say. And I think that this getting all choked up and crying, I think it's because he knows he's about to tell a whopper of a lie. And I don't think this man is a liar. I don't think it comes easy to him. I think it's hard for him to lie. And so he knows he's about to lie, and it tastes real bad going down.
what we have had a report of is based on that misinformation. And in one case, in one of these cases, 17-year-old kid is out playing in front of his house, starts being accosted, being accused of being a murderer, threats towards that kid.
I got to go back over to the main screen for this one. This man literally just said, he just said in one case, your talk about the death of Preston Lord and the fact that the Gilbert Police Department has not followed up on the rash of gang violence in the last 27 months, that you guys caused a horrific event, that you reporters and you social media people and the friends of Preston Lord and the defenders of the family of Preston Lord, that you guys have been so horrible. You caused a 17-year-old child who was just playing in front of his house. He had people yell at him and call him a murderer. I heard this and I thought, good God, what are you talking about, man? How many kids got out of their truck and got drug out by this group of violent teenagers and were beaten within an inch of their life? And in the case of Preston Lord, Preston was in fact killed by a gang of people that you guys knew. The police, you knew who they were, and you didn't want to mess with the families of who they were. You knew they were LDS. You knew they were coming out of the same temple as Lori Vallow and Melanie and the rest of the nuts involved in that case. You knew which one of those kids had FBI parents. You knew which ones whose parents were wealthy and well-connected. You and your police officers didn't want to mess with them exactly the same way that you didn't want to mess with Lori Vallow and her lip gloss, because she was cute. She was a pretty girl. And Charles was from Texas, and he wasn't primarily LDS, and he wasn't a big hotshot FBI agent or other. You abandoned Charles Vallow. And look what happened to JJ and Tylee because of it. And Preston Lord is just as much a victim of that type of thinking. That there's some people in this world that matter and there are some people that don't. And now he gets up and chastises the investigative reporters that said, hold on a minute. This is not random. All of the attacks happened actually in Gilbert, in the same parking garage, in the same parking lot at the same In-N-Out Burger, or these kids got so full of themselves that they went to the homes of victims to assault them. That these kids, these LDS kids with well-attached parents, these kids were walking up to other kids in high school, in the hallways, and threatening them with weapons, telling them, if you tell your parents that we are targeting you, we will kill you. He is literally chastising those investigative reporters. He is literally telling the families of those victims, keep your mouth shut. And then he tries to get all choked up about wrap your mind around this, a 17-year-old who is playing in the front yard, who gets called a murderer. What? He's 17 years old. Preston has been murdered. Why doesn't he just turn around and go back in his house? This is just really crazy. It's pretty shocking.
And it's all because somebody put that address as a suspect address, and it was wrong. It was inaccurate. So I get emotional about it because I see my kids. I wouldn't want that to happen to them.
Yeah, is that right? You wouldn't like that to happen to them, sir? Would you like to be Preston Lord's parents? And I think we all know that you wouldn't. I mean, let me say this. I wonder if this man would like to be Mr. Kuhner, whose son just went to go get a hamburger, and 3 minutes later, he's being loaded into an ambulance. Do you think that his dad wanted that to happen to him, Chief of Police? Now, he's going to finish this up by saying, I don't know why this happened, right? I know these people being the parents and the loved ones of these kids who have been brutalized and terrorized by the wealthy LDS group. He's saying, I don't know, I recognize that you guys are frustrated, but I don't know why. I'll tell you why. Because they asked for the police help for 27 months. And you guys didn't give them any help because Mr. Kuhner himself had to send his child to live on another continent because the phone calls that he put into your police went unanswered, that he begged and he pleaded for help, and you and your police officers did not respond. And guess what, Chief of Police Solberg? We here at Allegedly Innocent, we believe Mr. Kuhner. You want to know why? Because we've all seen the videos of a dead man begging your police officers for help with his psychotic and criminally insane wife. That's the truth. I don't know. It seems that the chief of police is jumping through hoops to avoid saying there was more to do, that we did not respond. We did not fulfill our duty as protectors of our communities. And he can't do that. The best he could do was pull out a suspicious story about a 17-year-old. Come on, can we be real? He says, he cries, he gets all choked up. The 17-year-old is playing outside in front of his house, and some people come by and call him a murderer. And it was the wrong address, and bad people online released the wrong address. And I wouldn't want that to happen to my child. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, did he say 7-year-old? Maybe he said 7. And I went back and I listened to it again through my headphones. No, not 7. He clearly says 17-year-old. You're all choked up crying because a 17-year-old has been targeted and called a murderer. Not good. Don't get me wrong. It's not good. It's not optimal. But what you really need to be choked up about is Preston Lord. That's what you need to be. You need to be choked up about Mr. Kuhner's son. You need to be choked up at those 50 some odd kids who have been assaulted and beaten and bloodied and bruised by your friends' children. That's what gets me all choked up. It almost makes you wonder if this 17-year-old that he's talking about, maybe that 17-year-old was part of the Goonies and one of his friend's kids. Maybe what we're seeing here with Mr. Solberg is a man that finds himself between a rock and a hard place. Maybe he feels torn between his group of powerful, influential friends that are trying to protect their bad children, and him trying to maintain some level of professionalism as chief of police. I can appreciate that. But please, for goodness sakes, do not ask the parents, the families of this community, do not ask them to be forgiving of your failures, because it's their children that were not called names. Their children were battered. Their children were the target of gang violence. Their children were tricked into going out to the desert and then held while 15 other kids beat the crap out of them. That this man even has the hubris to just try to get away with telling that kind of story, to try to make people feel sorry for him and this family. That's crazy after what they have subjected these families to over the past 27 months. It is wrong. So you might ask yourself, yeah, the cojones, that's right, calming the chaos. So the question is, why is this important at this point? Well, the reason that it's important at this point is because you've got a lot of victimized teens, young adults, and their family members. I guarantee you there's a whole slew of PTSD going on because of this group of 20-something gang members. and the police chief that allowed the Lord of the Flies to flourish, the police chief that stood back and kept the snakes safe in the snake pit, he's remaining in power. That after we watch the exact same police behavior, when Charles Vallow asked for help over and over and over, he begged and pleaded for a psych eval. That was a ridiculous moment. That the police coached Lori Vallow how to avoid getting a psych eval. They flirted with Lori. All on tape. It's not speculation. And then Charles Vallow ends up murdered, along with Tylee and JJ and Tammy Daybell. They're still doing the same thing, y'all. Citizens are going to this group of police and they're saying, we have a problem, we need some help. And they go, oh, no, you're okay. It's go away. It's don't bother us because we're the safest city in America, in Arizona. Oh, yeah. For you guys that were not at the earlier video. Yes, Gilbert, Arizona. The proud home of the dead Charles Vallow, JJ, Tylee, who just ignored a man who was begging for help with his family. Now the proud home of a teenager whose life was taken from him by a group of out of control kids from wealthy, well-connected parents that were protected and coddled, it would seem, by the same exact police department. Does he have any intentions of stepping down? It doesn't seem like it. The mayor of Gilbert had said she was running for re-election and whatnot. Now she's out. She is not going to run for re-election. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for recognizing that there needs to be some critical change, real change, not just pretend, but something has gone badly off the rails in Gilbert, Arizona. Did y'all hear me when I said a while ago, this group of kids, many of them are LDS, attending the same exact temple as Lori Vallow and Alex and Melanie? Did y'all know that? The question, well, I don't think it's a leadership vacuum, Kathy. I think it is once again the Mormon vacuum. Now, it is hard. It's hard to, let me see if I can find it. It's kind of hard to share this. Let me see if this will work. Hold on. The Gilbert Goonies. There's the Goonies. Okay. It's kind of hard to like, how do I say this? Impress on this. It's a collection. It's it's this impression that you get as you haunt or stalk or whatever you want to call it, as you read the Twitter pages of a lot of these kids involved, as you see their Facebooks, if you see their Instagrams, you follow their conversations. Now I'm talking about publicly available content that they're putting out. I'm not talking about being dishonest or anything. As you follow along, or even some of the parents' public stuff. Now, a lot of the parents have shut off now their social media and whatnot. But previously, before Preston died, these kids that were like that kept their names kept coming up over the last 2 years being involved in these violent crimes. You get this impression that the families are quite pious. They are observing, practicing LDS, and that there is gossip or discussion that the church wanted to deal with the out of control kids in Gilbert. You understand what I'm saying to you? It wasn't hidden. Like, as you go through these discussions, you run across these threads or these conversations where, like, one of the kids gets in trouble and then he is having this conversation like with a friend online or whatever, and he's talking about that he has to go and meet with, you know, the some kind of I can't remember what it was called now. Some group at the church that the church is in Gilbert, and Mesa is included in that the church, the temple, that is the preferred corrective path for teenagers that find themselves in legal trouble. Yeah, maybe it wasn't, they didn't say they were meeting with the bishop. They were meeting with some kind of council or board or something. I'll have to look. I've saved everything, so I'll have to go and find it. So, so it appears, and I don't know this because I'm not involved and I'm not a part of it, but just what I've been able to glean from social media posts and teenagers talking and things like that, it seems like this group of kids, they get in trouble, right? They get caught. Look, don't get me wrong. They are taking videos of these violent assaults. They are recording it, and then they are posting it online, like for social clout. They're not hiding it. They're not making it. Before Preston was killed, they were not hiding it. And in fact, listen to this. So Halloween, the night that Preston was killed at this party, this was a large group of kids that assaulted him and killed him. The next night, like 24 hours later, they're beating up another kid. Oh, maybe youth correction camp, something. So it was some, I don't remember. I'll need to go back and find it. Stake warden? Maybe that's what it was. Stake warden. I don't know. I'll look through my notes. I've got it somewhere. So the whole point of what I'm getting to here is this town, Gilbert, and also Mesa had a problem that when the kids would find themselves in trouble, that they would be directed to the church. So if the police caught them, if the police interviewed them, if the police said, okay, you're the perpetrator of this crime, they still were not writing a police report. They're just sending the kids over to the church. And nothing ever gets filed officially at the police department. And the end result is that Gilbert, Arizona is the safest city in Arizona. Don't you think that makes the Gilbert Temple look good? Don't you think that makes the LDS church look super? That a town that is 80 or 87% LDS, they don't have a crime problem, people. Does any of this seem okay or legal or safe? It's very odd. It's something that I can't really identify with at all. Stake ward is the section where you live, governed by a bishop, not governed exactly, overseen. Maybe that's what it was, Martian Planet. Not a mo. What's a mo? Mo, Ron? I don't know. Do you want to be a moron? Okay. Now then, so Shalimar, when I got into all this, and now I've spent days deep in this content, what kept coming up, what kept bubbling to the top, of course, Lori Vallow and all that damn insanity, but Jody Hildebrand, there we have it again, another obviously horribly violent person, a person whose, connection to reality is tenuous at best, who is assaulting small kids to the point that, a couple more days, those kids may have been dead. And it was sanctioned by the church. Not only were they the church was referring kids to her, the church was paying for those kids. It's unbelievable. So I don't know, y'all. I don't know what we do with this either. I just think it's we've got Chad Daybell's trial. It's rolling on up. Does anybody know the exact date for when his trial starts? When do they start jury selection? Does anybody know? And see, this is absolutely incorrect. This person, AZ Crazy, I don't know, Arizona Crazy, I don't know who you are, but you may want to rethink that name, because Lori Vallow is associated with Arizona and Gilbert and LDS, and her little buddy bestie Melanie is also associated with Gilbert and Arizona and LDS. And Charles' friend, Jason Mao, who abandoned him in the end, he's associated with Gilbert, Arizona, LDS. So I'm not sure the choice of Arizona Crazy is an optimal name you might want right now at this particular point in history. But let me correct you here. You say, fact. None of the 4 primary teens who were indicted by Maricopa County grand jury and subsequently arrested yesterday in Gilbert were LDS. All will be tried as adults. That is categorically false, because Jacob Pennington is LDS and Honey Ho is LDS. So I don't know what your Arizona Crazy, like what stake, why you have an interest in sort of calling out which one are LDS or not. The facts are that people in positions that would know have said that when these kids were caught breaking the law, being violent or stealing, robbery or whatever, that they were routed to the church so that the church could handle the punishment and not handled in-house at the police department. And so when you check crime statistics, it looks like Gilbert, Arizona has 0 violent crime. You may want to check into that, Arizona crazy. You might want to know if it's just a accidental kind of situation or if it was planned that way. You might want to find out how much the bishop is in contact with the chief of police, Solberg. That might be interesting to know. Let's see. This one says, I've resigned from the LDS Church in 2013. There must be an active LDS member who has access to the ward directory who can see if they are on the ward roster. How would you know there's a ward roster? Jacob's mom and stepdad have a picture of them standing in an LDS stake center. There, that's what you were talking about, Charlemagne. The Mormon kids I grew up with were bullies. Jacob Meisner's family lived in the wealthy Gilbert Enclave White Wing. Police descended on the gated community near the Gilbert Temple, where houses sell for more than $1 million. They were armed with automatic weapons, an armored vehicle, and then evidence vans. It is not probative, but I have to wonder how common it would be for a non-Mormon to buy $1 million plus home in a new development near a new temple. As a Nevermo, I personally find the thought of living in such a community unattractive. No, I mean, it's not just the Meisner family living in $1 million homes. There's Queen, oh gosh, Creek. There's a lot of these kids that are in really wealthy homes. So far, I've not read any official statement. Oh, you're not going to read official statements that they're LDS. Are you kidding? Do you really believe that the LDS temple wants to own any of this? No, absolutely not. So here's somebody who was actually in the neighborhood and was watching the arrests when they were at the renter's house and the Meisners. Along with many others, I personally watched the arrests happen at White Wing, that's Meisner. As we looked over the wall from the adjacent neighborhood, a large portion of those neighborhoods are LDS and they all know one another. One of the 4 boys arrested that day, none of the LDS members on the ground watching the arrest happened to know them and stated they were not members of the ward. The Gilbert Temple is a mile from the front gate of White Wing on Higley. There are several newer, more exclusive neighborhoods that are much closer and in the shadow of the temple where houses are being constructed for $3 to $5 million. Some of them exceed 10,000 square feet. It is LDS McMansion Central. The White Wing neighborhood was built and occupied 10 years before the construction of the temple. See, this Arizona crazy keeps trying to protect the LDS stuff. Chad, is that you? Is that Chad Daybell? All right. This is from December. Some parents will not let children talk to the investigators about the Preston Lord killing. I am not surprised by this. In fact, as soon as I heard about it, I told my wife, I bet they are circling the wagons. What does surprise me is the FBI has not gotten involved. Well, I wonder if there might be some parents who may or may not be the parents of one of the kids who has been arrested and is, being charged as an adult for the death of Preston Lord. Is that what may be interfering with the FBI getting involved? I would be shocked if the strings don't connect to at least one police department employee in Queen Creek. It's just an odds thing. Do you remember in Kylie Rodney's case, they did the same thing? Y'all remember that? In the Kylie Rodney case, the kids just shut down. It's like they all were suddenly unable to speak. Do you remember how weird that was? We called the Mormon Mafia or behind the Zion Curtain like hush cleanup crew. Yeah. Daybell's trial, April Fool's Day. Who did that? Are we being punked by the judge? That's funny. I love it. I think that is so appropriate. Who thinks that Chad Daybell's trial starting on April Fool's Day, who thinks that is appropriate? If you think it is appropriate, put a 1. If you think it is no joking manner and I am showing poor taste by laughing about it, put a 2. It is a crazy story, Top Dog Chick. How many Gilbert or Queen Creek police officers or politicians' kids are in this gang too? Bingo! You would be correct. Impermissibility. Just keep on digging, impermissibility. You'll find something. Did you know that there are lots of Mormons in the FBI? I'm shocked. I'm shocked. So if it's a prominent Mormon family involved in this, they may not be as helpful as you would think. Hiney ho, it's off to work we go. La 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 la, hiney ho, hiney ho. One of the girlfriends is speaking. Once again, tagging Washington Post, who wants to bet a gang of white Mormon affluent teens will not get the type of national coverage other gangs do. And Powder 9 gets a thumbs up on that. As someone who's grown up fairly middle class, I feel there's no other demographic that wants to start a gang more than a middle class boy from a safe neighborhood. That's a funny post. Okay, we'll do a thumbs up for a funny post. I grew up in the Gilbert area in the 90s, a bunch of upper middle class thugs. This type of violence was going on back then. I believe they were called something dogs. What were they called? Something dogs. Hold on. Let me think. I thought I had an article up. Hold on. I'll find it. I got that. Hold on. Gilbert, Arizona, gang life, something dogs. Devil dogs. That's what they were called. They was devil dogs. Hold on, I'll tell you about the devil. Oh, crap. I hate the paywalls, people. I've run into another paywall. Here we go. I feel like I need to have some music playing. I feel like the appropriate song that I would pick would be Guns N' Roses. Welcome, welcome to the jungle. That's the song we should be playing right now. Let me tell you about Gilbert, Arizona's history with violent gangs. One specifically, they called themselves the Devil Dogs. I'm just going to read the article. It's from 2000. A picture from a prom where the theme was Welcome to the Jungle. It shows 4 beefy boys. I could do one better than the music. Hold on. Stop screen. Present. Welcome to the jungle. There we go. Instead of 4 beefy boys, we have 5 beefy boys. All right. That'll work. Okay. Now y'all have a visual to look at. Seems like I ought to, there we go. That's what I want. Okay. A picture from a prom where the theme was Welcome to the Jungle shows 4 beefy boys posing with hands chest high, fingers forming a white power salute in front of their ruffled tuxedo shirts. A snapshot confiscated from a bulletin board in one young man's bedroom reveals teenagers pointing their handguns at the camera. Who thinks this picture that you guys are looking at right now, where Heine Ho is making the W white power symbol with his fingers, does it seem like one of them has seen this picture and they're doing a reenactment of what I just read to you from the year 2000? It was one of their daddies in the Devil Dogs. It was there too, in the anabolic steroids stashed in closets, the guns that the boys had hidden under false floors of cars, the white supremacist literature on dressers, the bare-knuckled fight club party in an empty backyard swimming pool, where the way the young men surrounded their victims and barked like dogs before beating and stomping them. Had anyone thought to look, they might have seen evidence of trouble in this hushed, upscale exurb southeast of Phoenix, Gilbert. They might have seen early signs of racism and violence where they're pitting many residents against one another. Due attention might have saved Gilbert and its schools from a nasty dispute and lingering ill will of the residents who were all Mormon. The troubles began with an outbreak of white supremacy, which can be traced to a group, mostly athletes, at Highland High School. Police say the group was founded 6 or 7 years ago by one student, Michael J. Papa, who was on the wrestling team. The group changed its name every year until it eventually became the Devil Dogs. Isn't it interesting that they now seem to be the Gilbert Goons? Part of the time, its members hung out at a local Taco Bell, a nexus for bullying and violence. All they did is replace the Taco Bell with the In-N-Out burger. Few people were paying attention. Even now, some, including the school superintendent, minimize the magnitude of the problems. According to police, a number of violent incidents, including some at the Taco Bell, involved the Devil Dogs, but because witnesses failed to cooperate and victims refused to press charges, only a few could be prosecuted. Many people did not begin to appreciate the full extent of what was happening until police busted a large drug ring earlier this year and said that former mob hitman Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano was involved. That's right, people. Sammy the Bull, along with the members of the Devil Dogs, became one of the biggest drug influencers in the county. This large drug bust gained the Devil Dogs big attention, even providing infamy throughout Gilbert and beyond. So did past instances of their handiwork. A young man was held to the ground and kicked in the head while teenagers barked like dogs and yelled epithets. The victim suffered a depressed skull fracture. The damage required 2 surgeries. Police mentioned 3 Devil Dogs in their report, but so many people were involved that officers were not sure who exactly inflicted the near fatal blows, and so no charges were filed. 2 men were beaten while their assailants yelled anti-gay and white power slogans. I think this is supposed to be yelled gay and white power slogans. This time, 3 Devil Dogs were convicted. They told police the assault began after they watched an Ultimate Fighting Championship competition on TV. Then they got drunk, and then they went out to stomp on, and they provide 2 words that I am simply not going to say, but basically referring to homosexuals and weak, or that's not it, people that are gentle and kind. According to court testimony, one of the teens, a linebacker on the Highland football team, bragged about the beating and showed off his bloody knuckles. Now, see, what I'm going to be doing tonight and tomorrow is I'm going to go back to the 4 years of high school from 1996 to 2000. I'm going to go to all the football pictures. I'm going to find out who the linebackers were, and I'm going to find out if there's any family connection between those linebackers and the current Goonies. At the time, the linebacker was on probation for an on-campus attack on another Highland student. He also had been involved in a Devil Dog attack on an Asian couple in which members yelled ethnic slurs and threatened to tip over the couple's boat on the Gilbert Lake. Then in May of last year, 1999, the Devil Dogs were involved in one of the worst beatings in the history of Gilbert, right up until Preston Lord. The victim was an 18-year-old named Jordan Jarvis. He had never heard of the Devil Dogs the night that he and a buddy were dropped off by some friends at a party. After waiting outside, Jordan Jarvis went in to let one of the friends know that he and his buddy were leaving. A young woman confronted him and asked his name. Jarvis told her. She then called for her boyfriend. Police and witnesses give this account of what happened next. A group of young men ran to Jarvis and accused him of beating up a friend of theirs. Jarvis said he didn't know what they were talking about, so he went outside to his friend's open Jeep, climbed in, and buckled his seatbelt. The Devil Dogs and about 50 teenagers from the party surrounded the Jeep. Jarvis was strapped in and unable to defend himself. The top was off the Jeep, and he was beaten, kicked, and choked from behind. Young men yelled, "White power!" They all barked. Blood seeped from Jarvis's head, his nose, his ears. When his buddy finally managed to drive away, he took Jarvis straight to the hospital. Jarvis had been beaten so badly that he was simply unrecognizable. His mother, Cherry, and her older son passed him in the emergency room and did not know who he was. His head was so swollen that night that they couldn't even provide proper treatment. They added stitches through the night as the swelling began to go down. He also had surgery, 3 different surgeries. one of those surgeries was simply to put his nose back on his face. He had bone spurs removed from the base of his skull. There was calcification around his eye sockets from the shattered bone. 5 devil dogs pleaded guilty or were convicted in the beating. Police described the incident as a case of mistaken identity. It's just more of the same. It's just an obscenity. Sees police, they're rounding up the wagons and they're protecting their own. They're saying, these are our kids. This kid, that's my friend's son. You're not going to hurt him. We're not going to send them to courtroom. About 2 years ago, as the devil dogs were growing even more violent, the founder, Michael Papa, made friends with another former New Yorker, Gerard Gravano, who introduced Papa to his father, Salvatore. That's right, Sammy the Bull. His son was actually a devil dog. In New York, the elder Gravano, known as Sammy the Bull, he had admitted 19 murders before taking a plea bargain and turning against mob boss John Gotti. Testimony from Sammy the Bull put Gotti in prison. Gravano entered federal witness protection program and moved where? Can we have a drum roll? Arizona. Gravano appeared to have settled into a suburban life. My goodness, where do you think he is living? He had changed his name to Jimmy Moran and has undergone minor plastic surgery to alter his appearance. He operated a pool construction company and a real estate development company. You can't make this up. Honey Ho seems to have a grandpa who is in the real estate business. His ex-wife, Deborah, owned Uncle Sal's Italian Ristorante in the upscale Phoenix suburb of Scottsdale. Living as businessman Jimmy Moran, Gravano became a mentor to Michael Papa, who was at this time 23. They say that Papa, Gravano, and some members of his family built Arizona's biggest ecstasy drug ring. It was a multi-million-dollar enterprise that targeted teenagers in Phoenix's flourishing rave scene. Papa, meaning Michael Papa, began recruiting his fellow devil dogs as muscle. One police surveillance report says that Michael Papa summoned 30 devil dogs to shake down a restaurant owner who owed the drug ring money. At the time of the drug bust, the ring was selling more than 30,000 pills a week and had cornered the Arizona market for ecstasy, an illegal antidepressant popular at raves, dance till dawn parties with pounding electronic music. And then it all unraveled. At 6:30 a.m. on February the 24th, 2000, agents from a multi-agency task force closed in on dozens of residences in the Phoenix area. The result? 45 arrests, 201 indictments alleging drug trafficking as well as other crimes. Also seized were methamphetamine, marijuana, and steroids. Remember, in the Renner family, you've got both of the boys arrested and the father arrested, all with enough drugs that they pulled charges for intent to distribute drug trafficking. Among those arrested were Gravano and his ex-wife, their son and daughter, and Papa, the Devil Dogs founder. All have pleaded not guilty and all are awaiting trial. Gravano remains in jail, facing bail of $5 million. His son, Gerard, is also still being held. Deborah and Karen Gravano have been released on bond. This was in 2000. Uncle Sal's Italian Ristorante, authorities say, was used to launder the money, and Deborah Gravano's spacious Tempe home was used to store the drugs. The construction company, police say, was a front for the drug dealing. As many as a dozen of those arrested have devil dog connections, growth partially to blame for problems. At least in part, Gilbert can blame development and its attendant growing pains for the trouble. It has the fastest growing school district in the state, and the town's 245% growth rate over 10 years is staggering, even by Arizona standards. Gilbert's population has gone from 29,000 to 100,000, much of it because of job growth in the Phoenix area. In 10 years, student enrollment in Gilbert went up 170%. The schools are bulging at the seams. Change is also a code word for ethnic diversity. Even with the encroachment of outsiders, fewer than 3% of Gilbert's 27,000 students are African American. Imagine that. And they're all LDS. It's like 87 something percent in Gilbert are LDS. For both blacks and whites, such upheaval causes insecurity, the bane of adolescence. One devil dog, who is 17, was asked during a court proceeding why he had joined. He gave the age-old adolescent explanation: popularity. The older guys had the girls and the cars. I wanted to be, like real cool. Not only were the Devil Dogs cool and popular athletes, but they had public support. After Jordan Jarvis was beaten, prosecutor Hugo Zettler did not try the case as gang-related. To the New York Times, he explained his approach this way: look, the kid's nose was broken, which is not earth-shattering in and of itself. It's a stretch to think of them, the Devil Dogs, as a gang. I mean, maybe technically they are. They were just kind of like wannabe gang members. All these guys are wrestlers and football players. That's all they are. Nobody wants to say anything bad about the athletes, right? Now we got the same exact, this is 2024. I'm reading you something from 2024 years ago. It's almost exactly the same thing happening, history repeating itself in Gilbert, Arizona. Let's keep our fingers crossed that Maricopa County does the right thing and names the Goonies to be an actual street gang. 5 of Jarvis's attackers were athletes at the Highland High School. A parade of teachers and city officials wrote letters to the court vouching for their high character. Is that why Chief of Police Solberg didn't do anything about these kids that were terrorizing a school? Because they're athletes, because they're popular, because their parents are FBI agents and more? The Highland High football coach and 2 teachers wrote on behalf of one member. 2 football coaches and a former candidate for the school board wrote on behalf of another. In one proceeding, a Highland High athletic director took the stand on behalf of the wrestling star. A former Gilbert mayor expressed common sympathies when he wrote, the boys' actions were obnoxious and aggressive. Quote, they were just behaving like jocks are supposed to be. It was at a Highland High prom that the photo was taken of the Devil Dogs flashing their white power salutes. The picture shows not violence, but racism. A former police detective named Mike Sanchez, who recently quit Gilbert's anti-gang unit, says that race has affected perceptions about the Devil Dogs. They're white. They don't fit the stereotype of a gang member. That was the whole issue. That's why there were blinders on. The town officials did not want to see it as gang behavior because those were their kids. Sanchez said that he and his partner frequently told their superiors about the Devil Dogs and identified the group as a gang. They fit the very legal definition of a street gang. He noted that the Devil Dogs exhibited 5 out of 7 signs of gang activities, including wearing white shoelaces on black boots to indicate that they were white supremacists. If nothing else, Sanchez said, the Devil Dogs' propensity for violence should have caused more concern among the authorities. No holds barred fighting was a favorite pastime. One devil dog celebrated his 16th birthday by staging a bare-knuckled fighting extravaganza in his backyard. Authorities say the teen's parents drained the swimming pool to serve as a sunken boxing ring. The parents facilitated this. Violence often spilled out from the individual homes and neighborhoods as devil dogs set out on hunting, seeking victims to beat. Devil dogs told police that they went on these forays 2 or 3 times a week, exactly what the Gilbert Goons have said. We know of maybe 3 or 4 documented fights with serious injury. In other instances, they never get caught, and to this day, right now, they believe they are untouchable. Other kids are afraid to report it. They know the reputation of the devil dogs. The dogs boast about it. We are untouchable. You cannot get us. They have connections, and they scare all the other kids. This whole Mormon thing is really phenomenal. Complicating the matters with the devil dogs, all the founding members of the devil dogs were in fact LDS. The most current members, however, are not. One devil dog told a reporter that young Mormon men are recruited because of the prominence of their families. The devil dogs know that the children of prominent parents will shield them from detection and prosecution. The whole Mormon thing, you just can't believe it. The whole thing is part of the Mormon culture, said the former police detective. We don't have a problem, we can deal with it. It's circling the wagons type of thing. That's the way we do it here in Gilbert. The parents at Gilbert see these things as an internal problem. All the leaders of the town are LDS. It's how things are done. When something happens at the Taco Bell, then workers simply call the local LDS bishop to intervene rather than calling the police. City Councilman Steve Uri, who is Mormon, acknowledged that this happens all the time. It's just easier to call the LDS stake president to handle it rather than to bring in the police. I mean, it's the Taco Bell's employees' decision to call us. We didn't tell them to. Really? The stake presidents did talk to the youngsters, and they did try to straighten them out. Wilbert Nelson, president of the Arizona NAACP, said the influence of the Mormon Church is an extremely touchy subject. It's the heart of the problem. We can't dance around that. The heart of the matter is that church leaders in the Mesa, Gilbert area have tremendous influence. This issue is not discrimination. This issue is the institutional foundation upon which discrimination is founded. It's the heart of discrimination. Such influence, Uri said, may be the perception. One may perceive that because someone is LDS and knows people across town, then they might have a higher status. What I can say is that we have higher standards of moral conduct for ourselves than we expect for others. Lori Vallow? Really? And when one of our kids does something that is not right, we are very disturbed. Is that right? You're very disturbed? Because it sure didn't look like that. Right, Melanie? You weren't very disturbed, were you, about what your little friend was doing? Wilford Anderson, spokesman for the LDS Church in the Phoenix area, said church officials meet regularly with young members to discuss social issues. Whether there is a gang problem in Gilbert or not, the problem lies not with the teaching of the church. Well, of course not. I hope that the youth members of our church are not participating in racism of any kind. If they are doing so against the teaching of our church. I am not suggesting that every member of the church is without fault, but as a church and an institution, we teach that all men and women are brothers and sisters. If there are members of our church involved in gangs, and I'm certain there are, as there are in other churches, well, it's just simply not coming from the church. Walter DeLeakey, the superintendent of schools, said that he had heard rumors of white supremacists in Gilbert schools, but he dismissed the notion that devil dogs are racist, knowing that many of their members are not members of minority groups. White supremacists do not beat up white people, to my knowledge. Well, you don't know much. DeLeakey, who is not Mormon, is aware of a pending NAACP action against the district. He charges that Mormon children are given special handling. As for disparity in meting out discipline, he bristled. We've had that accusation, and I haven't seen any facts. That is not how I run this district or work with my people. There's a lot of religious bigotry here. In my opinion, it's from the people who are not LDS. It's really hard to believe this is real. This town has been accused, I haven't seen it, be factual in my 22 years here. No one has been treated better or lesser because of their religion or ethnicity. Yeah, they're like almost 90% LDS. It's silly. The Gilbert School District held a series of public meetings over the summer to address hate speech and intolerance in schools with a goal to come up with written guidelines. The city is working with race relations mediator from the U.S. Department of Justice. Honey ho, honey ho. I wonder who that was with the Department of Justice. At a summit to end hate and violence, Mayor Cynthia Dunham spoke against blatant misinformation that she said exaggerated the numbers of gang members in Gilbert. Her own police department identified about 45 active devil dog members last year. After listening to the forum, Steve Tom, the federal mediator, noted that before hoping to solve a gang problem, Gilbert needs to acknowledge that you have a gang problem. Jordan Jarvis requires even more surgery to repair the damage done by the devil dogs. Recently, a surgeon planned to harvest cartilage from his ears to repair his nose, but he had encountered too much damage to do even that procedure. He and his family say they remain a target of this group. While Jarvis was in the hospital, the family's answering machine was filled with the sounds of barking dogs. And now, instead of the devil dogs, now we have the exact same situation with who? With the Goons, the Gilbert Goonies. I'm calling them Goonies. They don't call themselves Goonies. So there you have it, folks. It is shocking, Kathy, or it is, it's so hard to believe, isn't it? Like whatever it is that's going on in Gilbert, Arizona, it ain't healthy. Would you agree or not? All right. I just removed that devil dog comment because I couldn't say for sure it's a USMC reference, but guess I was correct or incorrect. I think it is some flicker of a distant memory. This is where I live. I was shocked to see someone talking about it. Hey, Kelly B750, welcome. Glad you're here. You know, I got to tell you something, Kelly. I've kind of fallen down the rabbit hole, right? Ran across this story about Preston and have followed through and, you know, just trying now to learn everything that I can possibly learn about it. It's about one of the worst stories that I can think of that running across. It's like the shadow of the church, history repeating itself, the strange violence that we've seen with Jody Hildebrandt, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, it just feels like there's something inherently unhealthy is happening to people in Gilbert, but you don't know where it's coming from. Queen Creek is a new police department, and this was their first murder investigation, so I was afraid they wouldn't make the arrest. Plus, the rich parents are protecting them. Yeah, I think last time I looked, I think they've made 7 arrests now, correct? I find it very interesting that there are so many people denying that any of these kids are LDS when they clearly are LDS. Some of these kids' parents are incredibly influential people on the national stage. So we'll see how it all turns out. Hey, Lindsay Hendricks, I just stumbled upon this live and Lordy mercy, am I invested? Me too, Lindsay. I've been down the rabbit hole several times. Let's see. It is a horror movie. I mean, this is the kind of movie I could legitimately see Hollywood making this movie. It's chilling. It is a chilling story. Cinnamon hot. You're crazy, girl. Got online right after she was done. I was horrified. Unfortunately, not surprised. Let's see. Exactly, Blonde PT. So that was sort of, it was kind of strange how I tumbled upon this story. They killed someone. I must have missed that part where the Devil Dogs and Jordan Jarvis a few years ago. So the article I was just now reading, Lindsay, that was published in the paper in 2000. There are some reporters that have made the link, have attempted a link between the Devil Dogs and the Gilbert Goons. And in fact, let me show you the picture. Hold on. Uh-oh, I must have closed it. Hold on. I did close it. Yeah, hold on just a minute. I got to open up my Canva again. Give me, y'all, you guys just talk among yourselves, okay? Just hold, please. I gotta pull this back up. Welcome to the jungle. Okay, let's see. This picture right here. I wish I could make it bugger. Here we go, right here. Okay, so here's the big, well, shoot. Stop. There, that's the one I want right there. Okay, so let me share this picture, and then I'll continue with what I was saying. Share screen. Go to Canva. Well, it did it again. I wonder why it does that. Am I being hacked? Right there. That's okay. So this picture here, ignore the black and white photo there. So this picture that you're looking at with the 5 Gilbert Goonies, it was striking to me that we have this picture where you've got Heine Ho in the middle with the skull cap on, and he's throwing up the interlock W's, the white power sign. Correct? You see him with the W's. Okay, so 4 or 3 of these 5 are throwing up gang signs, but Heine Ho in the middle here specifically is holding up this W sign with the intertwined fingers. And the reason why this is very important is the article that I just read to you about the culture of violence that is in Gilbert, even going back to 1996. This article that I've just read to you was actually published in the Los Angeles Times on October the 26th in the year 2000. Now let that sink in. This is Los Angeles that is talking about this bizarre, predominantly white, nearly all LDS across the board, and the fact that they are plagued with violent crime that is coming from a white supremacist group of teenage kids. That's how bad this was from 1996 to 2000. So I'm going to read the opening paragraph again as you look at this photograph where Heine Ho is in the middle of the picture throwing up cross W's. Listen to this. A picture from a prom where the theme was Welcome to the Jungle. It shows 4 boys posing with hands chest high, fingers forming a white power salute in front of their ruffled tuxedo shirts. This snapshot was confiscated from a bulletin board in the bedroom of one young man. They also, in that same bedroom, they found anabolic steroids hidden in the closet. There were guns underneath the false floor of the car, white supremacist literature on the dressers. He was a member of the Devil Dogs, the bare-knuckled fight club party in an empty backyard swimming pool. When this group would attack, they would surround the victim and bark like dogs as they were getting beat up. That describes almost accurately, fast forwarding 4 years to 2024, but instead of devil dogs associated with Sammy the Bull, now we have Gilbert Goons, who may or may not be associated with some FBI agents. Is that scary? It's history repeating itself. It's intergenerational. It's like this kid, Heine Ho, it's like he saw this photograph that is actually described in the Los Angeles Times in the year 2000. And then they acted it out. Isn't that crazy? It is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Yep, sure is. All right. So this is the group that have been arrested for the murder of Preston Lord. And the murder, the manner of death, was not a gun or a knife. The manner of death was a group, a gang beatdown. They literally beat this child to death at a party. And now, in the last 24 hours, they're now reporting it had something to do with a gold chain. That's it. That's where we are. If we don't remember history, we are doomed to repeat it. But there is that huge question. Why do you have a police chief protecting these kids for 2 years? Why in the world in Gilbert, Arizona, do you have kids at school terrified to tell their parents that some kid at school pulled a knife on them? The church is out of control, people. Remember what I said. when these kids are getting in trouble, when they would get caught with this violence, beating people up and whatnot, it appears historically the cops would not deal with those hoodlums in a legal fashion. They were directing them to the LDS church. That if the cops came along and picked them up, they wouldn't file a police report. They would call the church. That's why Gilbert, Arizona's crime statistics got them the award of the safest city in Arizona. Not because there wasn't any crime, but because the police were not processing the crimes properly. The criminals were being handed over to the LDS church with shades of Jody Hildebrandt. It's craziness. Okay, big ups. Welcome, my friend. Been a long time since we talked. What is the bill C-63 in Canada? Oh, it is sickening, Cinnamon. The more I've learned about this, it's just like I'm reading, and every 30 minutes, I'm either shaking my head in disbelief or I'm actually saying, holy hell, is this real? It's craziness. I'll tell you how bad it is, Cinnamon. I am at the point, and my husband's going to think I'm a crazy woman, right? I'm at the point, I'm ready to get on an airplane and go to Gilbert, Arizona. It has gotten to that point. It's like a trip to Disney World. I got to see this place. This is the strangest set of circumstances I've ever heard of in a town. I thought Big Ups was going to tell us what Bill C-63 is. Oh, Kelly's going to invite me. Kelly, you got to protect me, though, from the Gilbert Goonies, okay? They're scaring me. They sound like here's probably the reality, right? They have a history. They've done some pretty dark and terrible things. It's also sort of been, I hate to say facilitated, not facilitated, but they've been allowed, the environment has allowed them to act with impunity. There's not been any limits set on their behavior. They are not in fear of any kind of, punishment. And so I think it just got worse and worse and worse because it was unchecked. I guess they said, when your daddy is special, if the worst you have to deal with is to have to go talk to the bishop, then why be worried about it? Go do what you want to do. Now they have a real problem. Now that 7 of these guys, not all LDS, but 7 of these guys now, they're being tried as adults for murder. They've been charged with felony murder, and that means that they can get life in prison. Let me clarify this a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. Big Ups answered. C-63 already passes the first go around. It is a new law that if you speak bad about the government or about Trudeau, they can give you life in jail. Jesus Christ. Wow. That's incredible. I'm also in a lot of trouble if I'm Canadian. I'll protect you. It's actually a very nice area and rich with $1 million homes. You would never know about this. No, I totally agree, Kelly. And the way that the people in our community, the way that we even knew about Gilbert, Arizona is from the Lori Vallow, debacle. So I knew that the Gilbert Temple, that's a huge influence in the area. So, we definitely are going to need bail money, Cinnamon. They're going to be looking for us. Kathy R says, take your brass knuckles. So, yeah, no, it's definitely, you hear about what a beautiful place it is. But what happened to these kids? What caused them to go off the rails, right? It's something's wrong in Gilbert. There's something happening in Gilbert that doesn't happen in other places. Maybe Rexburg. Rexburg's another place that really mirrors Gilbert. It's really the same dynamics. I mean, you got that doctor in Missouri who was actually from Rexburg. It was crazy. It's crazy. Kathy R says, it must be a full-time job sweeping all these crimes under the rug. Don't you think there's probably a special temple committee whose job is only to sweep stuff under the rug? The rug sweeping committee, right? Can you imagine being on that committee when Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were in business? Whew. So Satan has chosen another religion to demolish. It seems so, big ups. I remember creeping on Brandon B. and Melanie's big house in Gilbert on Zillow, and you can see the Gilbert Temple from dang near every window of that home. There are even photos of the family on the wall in one picture. Oh, that's kind of haunting, isn't it, Lindsay? It is scary about the Canadian C-63. That's another, that Trudeau he's kind of a freak, isn't he? We are in weird times. We are living in extraordinary times, no doubt about it. Okay, so, we have the whole Chronicles of Mormon Murder, right? It's like you'd think that at some point that book would get full, and yet it just goes on and on and on and on and on. So sadly, Preston Lord, people are not talking about Preston. And I feel about Preston Lord as I feel about Laken Riley. We need to say their names. Preston deserves justice. To lose a kid like him, that is a huge loss to the community, the county, the state, and in fact, our nation. And to lose him to such nonsense, and to have this chief of police, my God, this chief of police it's unbelievable. So, yeah, it is. It's the whole talking about religion. It's the whole one world religion problem that's warned about, Lindsay, people are very worried. They're selling their businesses and selling their homes. I bet. Absolutely. Tell them to come on down to Texas. We'll welcome them in. Lindsay Hendricks, I know, right? Remember seeing pictures of Charles and Lori's house, seeing pics literally on every wall. The mafiosa crossover that Michael Papa was the founding father of the white supremacist gang in Gilbert called Devil Dogs. And Papa actually had family connections to Sammy the Bull Gravano. And together, Sammy the Bull and the Devil Dogs, they actually had the largest drug ring in Arizona. I think they said it was ecstasy. There were other too, amphetamines and marijuana and stuff. And I can't help but make the connection. This picture is a nearly identical picture to the one described in the Los Angeles Times article. And Devil Dogs and Gilbert Goons, it's pretty close in cadence, It's almost like these boys did like a copycat kind of gang. it was just wild to me because I believe they had just moved into that house, but Melanie got hella brainwashed by Lori and wanted a divorce. Yeah, Brandon Boudreaux was just, that poor man was traumatized when his wife went to the dark side. It's tragic, terrible. Still, the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell hell on earth. It's still one of the worst things I've ever heard. This is running a close second. Not the same level of death and destruction, but the how insidious this was, how this group of kids so out of control, and the police and the church, everybody looked the other way. This is pretty crazy. Because these are not kids that are in survival mode. These are kids that had affluence. They had every opportunity that they would ever need to live out their dreams. And what did they choose to do? Nothing. Just be criminal and violent. Something went wrong. Something happened to them. The NAACP, Lindsay, the NAACP was heavily involved in the early 2000s. They brought suit against the state of Arizona because of the stuff that the Devil Dogs was doing. So this isn't new. I don't know why this police chief is acting like he doesn't know about the problem with white supremacy gangs in Gilbert. It's got a long history. He's just making excuses. This is not boys will be boys. That is not what this is. There's something wrong with these boys to do this. They're not right in the head. All right, I said it. Cat's out of the bag. Okay. Their parents need to be charged too. And I do think that has been discussed, Kelly. I think that the powers that be, they did throw the book at these kids. The Maricopa is not playing around. And there is discussion now that they've brought 7 in, they're being charged as adults. There is discussion that there may be some parents that will be charged. And of course, now we have precedent with Crumbly's mom, right? So that things could get pretty weird in Gilbert, Arizona. Could they get any weirder? I'm just asking. To know that we are right back in Gilbert, Arizona is simply unbelievable, isn't it? It's just crazy. But here we are. So, you guys are awesome. I appreciate you more than you could ever know. And I think I've been talking for 2 hours. So I think I'm going to have to say goodnight. You know what I mean? I had a lot of talking today. My music's very loud. All right. I will read a few more comments here. Parents need to be charged. They were hiding one of the kids up north in a cabin until his knuckles healed because the police were looking for him. I think that is Renner. Is that correct? Where 2 boys have been arrested. The father has been arrested. The 2 boys were arrested. I believe the father and one of the boys, their charges are not connected to Preston Lord right now. They are drug charges, possession, intent to distribute, and something else. I don't know what else the other one was. And then one of the kids is related to the death of Preston Lord. So yes, and what's so crazy is the dad that was arrested, he was making a lot of money selling drugs, and I guess his 2 kids were dealing for him. He also had other businesses that he owned. He has a business partner. This is a crazy story, people. This is a crazy Or Critter Watcher. Welcome, my friend. Talon Renner. Absolutely. And if I remember correctly, Kelly, and my brain is filled with information because I've done so much reading in the past few days about it. Is it right? Am I remembering this correct? That the dad and one of the sons, and I don't remember which one it is, that they're athletes, right? They're big athletes. The son, well, the dad too, I think, but the son was like a state recognized running back. That his max prep, he's at the top of the food chain on max preps for Arizona high school. And the dad played, I think, college ball. So again, history repeating itself. The Devil Dogs were athletes. Now we've got the Gilbert Goons as athletes. So it's really something. It's really, 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 really something. Possible because of recent charges where parents are held legally responsible for their child's actions. Dangerous precedent, but can see where it might incentivize some parents to be parents again. Totally agree with everything you said, Juan PT. It's uncomfortable. I'm not altogether sure it's right. But one thing is for certain, there are a lot of parents that have abdicated their jobs as parents. They've left these kids to live their own lives and be their own parents, and it's gone off the rails. Only 1% of United States LDS church membership is black. Maybe white supremacy runs through parts of the philosophy of the church. Well, that is one question. That definitely is one. Now, this Gilbert Goonies, they do have a guy, an African American member, and his name is Christopher Fantastic. That's his name. So maybe they're sticking with the general statistic. He's the 1%. You have done a great job researching this. Out the background, I learned a lot. No, Kelly, thank you. And you know what I think, Kelly? I think we've only just scratched the surface. I think this whole thing is going to turn out just like the Valo Daybell saga. I think the longer it goes on, the more we're all going to be sitting around with our jaw hanging open. I think this is a big story, and it is not over yet. So. All right, people. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great Saturday night. Let me ask y'all this. What channel are y'all going to when you leave here? No, thank you, Guam PT. I really enjoyed talking to everybody tonight, seeing all of you guys. Making new friends, Kelly and Lindsay. What are y'all going to go listen to when we end this one? I'll follow y'all to wherever you're going. If allegedly with Brittany's on, I'll probably go over there. Or maybe Scott Rice is on. Nobody knows what they're going to go listen to. All right. Okie dokie. I'm probably going to go. Let me see who's live. I don't even know who's live. Let's look. Oh, honey ho. Let's see. Who is live that we could go and raid their... Oh, nobody. Wow, there's not anybody live right now. That's crazy. I guess we could go to Red X Crime Files. All right, hold on. I'll get the link for Red X Crime Files. She's live right now. Well, this is a channel for ultimate true crime junkies. Y'all tell her that we're raiding from allegedly innocent, okay? All right, I'm going to head over there to her channel. She's live right now. Be sure to tell her that you came from here. Y'all have a good evening. Big ups. It was great to see you again. Don't be a stranger. Big ups. See y'all later.